Dear Mom, it's been a long time since I've written you a letter, maybe even since Herzl Camp. I've missed you every single day since July 6, 2013. That day changed me in ways I could never have known. I grew up in a household where my parents got divorced where I was really young. Dance and theater and movies and music was always an escape from the chaos that was kind of going on around me. And I always knew from that age that that's what I really wanted to do with my life. Having that support from my mom, it was really just all about like, what do you want to do? What do you love to do? What is your dream? What is your passion? And I mean, she was all supportive. When I lost my mom, it was very sudden. I'll never forget getting into my mom's car and driving to the funeral home where she was cremated to pick up her ashes, and this song came on that she really liked. And I immediately turned the radio off. It didn't dawn on me until a lot later when I was working with Sarah that was kind of just a metaphor for everything that I did for the next 4 years. Whether it was a song that touched me, dancing that moved me, or anything that brought out the pain and emotion, I wanted nothing to do with it. I had just gotten home from a really long week of judging a big national dance competition. I had already had a plan in my mind that I wanted to move to Atlanta. So she was helping me pack up some things. I left her around 2 o'clock that day. I kind of took a really long time and was running around doing all these different things. And then I went back to her apartment. It wasn't until I walked out of the bedroom that I realized my mom hadn't responded when I was talking to her. It was at that point that I started panicking. You know, I was like yelling her name, you know, trying to get her to respond, and she was not responding. When I came closer to her, she wasn't breathing. I struggled a lot with it being my fault because I didn't come home fast enough. You know, it was like a 15-minute window. People who suffer from arrhythmias, which is what she ended up having, which is described as like an electrical short in your heart. And a lot of people survive those, you know, if they're with people or someone, you know, can get to them fast enough. Essentially, they had to go through all these different tests to figure out that she was brain dead. And then, you know, when she did pass, I held her in my arms, you know, as she took her last breath. So I have an older sister who lives in Minnesota where I grew up. When she was in college, actually, she interned at a JFCS in Minneapolis. So when I was talking to my sister about, you know, the fact that I wanted to try to find some guidance and counseling, she was actually the one that came up with the recommendation. So because of my sister, I then came to JFCS and was linked up with Sarah.
When I first met Mel, I liked her immediately. I feel like we really clicked from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that she was talented and funny and had a lot of great traits. But I also knew that she was having a hard time seeing that in herself. I think that the grief sort of goes hand in hand with what was going on with Melissa's issues with vulnerability. You were struggling really hard to be creative, and that's really tough when you're an artist and, and a big part of your job is to be creative. Melissa had mentioned that her mother left her some money in her will, and Melissa said, I didn't use the money, I didn't know what to do with it, so I just put it aside. And you said, well, maybe I'll just, travel solo to Europe like my mom used to do, maybe just in passing. And I said, wait a second, that is an amazing idea. Mm-hmm.
It just so happened to be that my mom had kept these spiral, journals about her travels through Europe as a young hippie in the 1970s. And it was amazing because my mom did it when she was only 20. She would put the place that she was and the date. But so I started picking some of the different places that I was seeing. There's here, August 8th, a boat to Athens. And that was the last place I actually finished my trip, was in Athens. I didn't have a plan, when I got there. I just kind of let my mom speak to me. I let my energy feel my way, and I just started picking places that I felt were fit for a queen. We went to the Tower Bridge in London, the Eiffel Tower, Mount Tibidabo in Barcelona. And I was so excited to share with Sarah after I called her, you know, how I was feeling and how connected to life I felt. There was one particular sunset, like it was the very last sunset of my trip, and I was in Santorini. I sat down on this patio chair and I started watching the sunset. It was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my life. I looked to my right and it just so happened that there was just one empty seat. Just 100% sure that my mom was sitting there with me watching it. And from this point on, like, I'm gonna watch as many sunsets around the world with my mom as I can. There were so many days and nights where I just cried and cried. And I still have those moments, you know, like when I think about having a kid, or I think about my first album that's gonna go platinum and she's not gonna be there, you know, to experience any of those things. So finally, to be able to bring myself back to that place where, like I said, I feel like I have a purpose. I can find a way to inspire other people through it and use my crafts to do that.
You know I've been waiting forever to take this vacation. How long I've been waiting for you.
And being in this moment right now, I mean, like, how much cooler could it be? She's probably like watching right now, you know, she's like, wow, they're doing a story about me, and it's in a dance studio and they're, you know, highlighting all these amazing things about my daughter. Like, she would be really proud.
You're the reason I'm breathing, you know. You are the air to my lungs, you're the reason I'm breathing.
I would definitely say the JF and CS helped me get my voice back, for sure.
You know.